G'day mate and welcome back to Factorio with me, JD. This week the mod we're actually highlighting is the Space Extension mod, more commonly known as SpaceX. Now this mod's been around since version 13 and I have to admit I've played a SpaceX game in 13, 14, 15 and 16 and the biggest reason this whole mod exists is prior to version 15 you launched a rocket, and that really was the end of the game. There was nothing else to research. There was nothing else to do. The game was pretty much done. And SpaceX gave you a challenge above and beyond that. It also very, very much encouraged the building of a Megabase. Because prior to that, there was no need to. There was just nothing in the game that would give you any reason to have a base that does, 1 or 2 or 3,000 science packs per minute. So, on to the mod. So, the whole point of SpaceX is to get to the point where you can build a rocket solo, and rather than launching a satellite to then call somebody else to rescue your ass because you crash landed on the planet, you can't be trusted to fly a spaceship ever again. You've actually got to build your own ship to get off the planet, which is a little bit different and a little bit interesting. So first off, we're going to research the rocket solo, and we all know this one. It's 1,000 of each pack. It's nice and cheap, and with creative mode, that's done. Then it unlocks all the SpaceX research. So we got the space assembly, which is, if you remember, the rocket solo, along with a lot of the infinite techs. So we'll just go to mining productivity and robot worker speed. They all are on a 60-second cycle time. Whereas, same with the rocket solo, it's 60 seconds. The space assembly is 120 seconds. So straight away, your labs take that much longer to process the science. On top of that, you'll notice it's 2 red, 2 green, 1 blue, 1 purple. This was something that was really, really common, actually built into Factorio back in 13, 14, and 15. A lot of the early scientists would make 2 reds to 1 green. Now it's all been streamlined. They're all at the same rate, which is, I think, a little bit more boring. But, SpaceX, like I said, has been around for ages. So it carries some of that heritage forward with it. First SpaceX research, does costs a fair bit, unlocks the assembly robot and the SpaceX Combinator. And we'll get to both those shortly. We'll finish that one really quickly. And then the next one is the space construction. Unlocks the space dry dock facility required for the construction in an interstellar vessel, which again is 2, 2, 1, and 1, but this time costs 6,000, and unlocks the dry dock assembly component and the dry dock structural component. So I'm going to get both those done real quick, and we'll see the SpaceX progress summary is 0 of 7 for satellites. Now, early on we got that Combinator from research. The Combinator lists what part of SpaceX you're up to. So at the moment it's outputting S1, so I'm on stage 1, and I need to launch 7 satellites. Now, the good thing about this Combinator is you can actually hook it up to filter inserters and stuff, that sort of stuff, to automate your launching, right? Which was one of those things that was added fairly recently to SpaceX because it was definitely needed. But because I'm in creative mode, we're just going to run through this really, really quickly and launch our 7 satellites to get onto the second stage of SpaceX. Now, if we go back to our tech tree, so we've got 7 satellites launched. We all know satellites are fairly expensive. And down the bottom, we have a complete cost in raw materials, which is one of those lovely features of creative mode. We have the 2 components we just unlocked, and you'll see these are the next things that we need to launch as part of SpaceX, is the dry dock structural component, 0 out of 10, and the dry dock assembly component. So the assembly component is fairly expensive, to put it mildly, and don't forget we need 50 assembly robots, so we need a crap ton of these guys as well. Plus, you need 10 lots of the dry dock structural component, which as you can see are also very, very, very cheap. And in my case, look, I helped Lord Katori out and I added some of the flavor text. So, satellite network complete. Finally, module launch satellite. You've come to the realization what the final solution will look like. Complete eradication of the natives and time to build your own right out of here. Because obviously, Nobody's coming to pick you up. So we're just going to complete the dry dock assembly components. Good old creative mode. And at the same time, put in there. Why are you broken? You're broken for some reason. So I'll just throw one in there. And we'll just complete stage 2 really, really quickly. And as you see, our combinator is down stage 2, and we need to launch 9 of the dry dock structural components. At the same time, we need to go back to research and finally research the stuff we need for stage 3. So we've got 2211 for 6,000. To unlock the hull component, again, it's 2211 6000. Fairly, still fairly expensive. Then we move on to the protection fields. Again, 221. This time some military research and some high tech, 6,000 points. This mod is not for the faint of heart. It is really, really expensive and will really, really test whether your Megabase is actually a Megabase or it's just optimized for science. The fusion reactor, again, very, very expensive. We haven't even got to the thick of it yet. The space thrusters, again, fairly expensive. Fuel cells, the habitation modules, the life support systems. These are all important things to have on your spaceship. The spaceship command, obviously, this is where you're going to sit. This is obviously going to take a little bit longer and a little bit more research to complete. The Astrometrics Lab, which is very important for not running into planets or suns or crash landing for a second time. So once we get that done, we can then move on to stage 3. So dry dock complete. Congratulations, pat yourself on the back. Dry dock done. We just need to build the ship. It's starting to feel like the base that builds the base. Awesome. So, stage 3. We need a protection field, a fusion reactor, a habitation, a life support, 1 lot of astromechanics, 1 command center, 2 lots of fuel cells, 4 lots of thrusters, 10 lots of hull components, and the FTL drive, which I haven't shown you the research for yet. So, just quickly, I'm just going to hover over some of these, and you can see how insanely expensive they are, The fusion reactor needs 100 portable fusion reactors. And you've got to remember, a portable fusion reactor is 250 blue circuits by itself. And you need 100 of them. That's more than most bases ever produce, even for science, unless you're running the base for a very long time. The hull component, it's probably one of the fairly cheap ones, except you need 10 of them. So that probably negates its cheapness. The protection field, because you crash landed the first time, you obviously want really, really good shields, is 100 energy shield Mark IIs. Which, again, no Megabase has ever set up to make 100 energy shield Mark IIs, ever. Anything that's dedicated to science is pretty much useless for making energy shield Mark IIs. We go on to the spaceship thruster, 100 processing units, 100 electronic engine units, low density structures pipe, and 50 speed module 3s. Now, you'll notice the speed modules and the prod mods do show up in this mod often because they're expensive, and the whole point of this mod is to really, really be expensive and slow you down. We've got the fuel cells, which, not too expensive, except you need 2 of them. And the thrusters, don't forget, you need 4 of them. The habitation module, life support, 50 prod mod 3s. When I did my last run, I'm pretty sure the 50 prod mod 3s, same with the 50 speed mod 3s multiplied by 4, I ended up gutting them out of my base because I just didn't have them laying around. The command center, which is 50 speed, 50 efficiency, and 50 prod mod 3s. No Megabase is ever designed to make efficiency modules. Normally you make 5, and then you might make a second lot of 5 just to make a second power armor, like a running suit or a combat suit or something like that. no Megabase I've ever seen is really, really designed to make efficiency modules in large quantities. And then we've got the Astrometrics Lab, again, 50 speed module 3s. Now, and again, as you can see, this lovely commentator says we're now on stage 3. These are the things we need to launch. And you can try and hook up smarts to inserters. You definitely can. And if I was any good at smarts, I would definitely do that and showcase that. But I tried it and bad things happened. But I will just load these into my pre-made silos real quick. That one. Yeah, I don't want to launch the fast and light drive because that would finish out the mod. Okay, so that's all the components run and launch except the FTL drive. So we'll go back into research, and this mod is really designed for endgame. I can't cover that well enough. Because fast and light theory, because you don't want to get home on the bus. You really want to take the express train straight home. So fast and light theory A, being the very, very first research you need, goes back down to a 60-second cycle, but you need 250,000 red science packs, which is a lot. You know, even for a base that does 5,000 per minute, it's going to take a while to get 250,000 red science packs done. I don't care what you do, it's going to take a long time. My last attempt, I actually set up so I was doing over 5,000 per minute. I think I was doing about 10,000 red science per minute. And then I had to feed them all through labs, which meant my lab build just got massive just to try and feed them in fast enough. After you get through Fast and Light Part A, you need to get through Fast and Light Part B, which is another 250,000 red science with 250,000 green science, which at least you've had some time to buffer up whilst you were making and running the red science through. Then you've got to run Fast and Light Theory C, which is only 125,000 of the blue, but it's still 250,000 of both red and green. Before we finally get to the fast and light propulsion systems, which is your red, your green, your blue, your purple, your high-tech, and 125,000 rocket science. I don't know it's not called rocket science, but it sounds way better when I call it rocket science because it comes from rockets, which automatically means that you, on top of your 40-odd rockets you need to launch for SpaceX, you also need to launch another 107-ish with, if you're using productivity modules in your labs, which with this mod I really, really hope you are. You need to launch about 107 more satellites to just get the tech to make a fast and light drive. So we're going to run through these really quickly in creative mode, which does take all the fun out of it, to finally get the fast and light drive, which is 500 processing units, which you've had plenty of time to build, and 100 low-density structures, which, again, you've had plenty of time and plenty of practice to build those. But with 500 speed modules, 500 efficiency modules, and 500 productivity modules, last time I did this mod, I actually gutted my base to get the speed modules, the productivity modules, and the efficiency modules I had built up, because it took a while. But when you finally get all those done, you finally get the fast and light drive, which, as I said, was quite expensive. And there's the totals down there. You know, it's 5.7 million petroleum, 227,000 acid, 286,000 coal, 1.6 million. This is a single component. It's 1.6 million iron with 3 million copper. It's expensive. And if we throw that in there, we'll complete a SpaceX launch. So 40 plus rockets later, we are in creative mode, so it's dead easy creative mode. But we'll finally finish SpaceX. So, interstellar ship launch. Congratulations, after multiple months of multiple launches, you've finally completed your final goal, building the rocket that will get you off this rock, because clearly nobody else was coming to rescue you. You didn't crash the ship in the first place, right? It was Bob, your trusty construction robot, because the construction robot's out to get you. He was the one flying the last ship. Him and his trusty AI that you programmed. It was his fault. Exactly. I didn't crash the ship. It was Bob. Well, he didn't make it through the first crash, so now it's completely up to you. You're paying attention during your training of how to fly a large tin can, right? Good luck, engineer. Decision time. Launch another interstellar rocket or end the game. Because there are people out there crazy enough, and I will actually mention somebody at the moment who, if you watch this video within 3 months of it coming out, you should go check on Twitch. Who actually build SpaceX bases. So we're not talking mega bases that do, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 science packs per minute. They actually build bases that just do SpaceX, because SpaceX is harder than any type of science, base that you've ever completed. So if you're sick of making mega bases that just do lots of science, like as it 1, 2, 3,000, whatever you've decided, hell, even a 500 science packs per minute, and you really want a challenge, I would strongly recommend the SpaceX mod. Lord Couture puts a lot of time and a lot of effort into this mod, and thankfully he doesn't update it that often because it's just really bug free. I do know there is an update coming soon which will let you launch yourself into space and then build in space, but that's a secret project that hasn't been released yet. But yeah, you can bring it on and go again, or no, I want my mummy, and if you click this, it just takes you, the option will bring up the game completion screen, and SpaceX production will not be reset. Or you can say, yes, bring it on, and you get Interstellar Launches 1, which took you however long, right? And you can then repeat the process. If your game, and that's the real catch, if your game, I would strongly recommend that you see how many interstellar space launches you can get. All the combinators are reset, as you can see. We're back down to stage 1 with seven satellites. And the person who, I guess the polite way to say it is he bit off more than he could chew. Video Game Geek on Twitch, I highly recommend you go check him out. He actually decided to run himself a challenge that for every follower he would get, he would launch a whole SpaceX ship. So if Alexa, if you watch this anytime in the 3 months of it coming out, go over to Twitch, search for Video Game Geek. He plays a lot of Factorio and he's very, very entertaining to watch. But more importantly, if you click that follow button, it puts him through the agony of having to launch yet another spaceship. He's been running this for like 4 months now. He's got to about 500 launches so far, and he's got about 500 to go still. He has never quite caught up to the 50% mark. As soon as he gets close, more people pop across and follow him, and he slips further and further back. But yes, that is today's little mod highlight. It's a wonderful mod. I cannot recommend it more. It is very, very, very good if you really want something that will really, really push your base building skills and your mega basing to the limits. So, now, the other thing with this mod is there's actually a couple of options in the options menu, which I can't actually access until we go back to the options menu, mod settings. So there's a couple of things that SpaceX does do, right? If you want to set the game a little bit harder for yourself or easier. So you can actually have a SpaceX research cost multiplier with 2, 4, 6, 8 or 16 times multiplier. A production cost multiplier in case you're really, really insane and figure it's not expensive enough. Plus there's the launch profile. So rather than launching 7 satellites and then 1 of each of the components, you can actually set it to a 5 times multiplier or a 25 times multiplier. So if you really, really are a glutton for punishment, you can always swap over and launch 25 times of each of the components, including a fast and light drive, for that real punishment. The other thing you can do is if you find the early game is a little bit too easy, but you don't want to really have the challenge continue for SpaceX. So if you if you start a vanilla game and you want like 2 times multiplier or 5 times multiplier, so rather than your logistics research taking 10 red science, it now takes 20 or 30 or 50, whatever you set the multiplier to. You can have SpaceX ignore that multiplier and it stays at its default cost, which I just showed you. You can remove the need to launch the 107, 120 extra rockets for rocket science from the actual FTL drive research, which is something that it adds a lot to the end game. I think my last SpaceX run was after building a Megabase, which took maybe 30 hours, start game to end game, launching a rocket, the whole works. Even though I knew I had SpaceX running, it probably took me another 40 or 50 hours to complete one SpaceX launch. And a lot of that was just launching satellites to get the research up to then do that FTL drive technology. The other one is basically compatibility for the old version. So prior to version 15 or 16, one of the two, fusion reactors used to cost 50 blue circuits, and now they cost... so it would have been in version 14. So in version 14, they cost 50 blue circuits. Now they cost 250 blue circuits. So a lot more expensive. So what you can do is, rather than having to put 100 portable fusion reactors into the fusion reactor cell, you only need to do 40. So this brings the cost back down to sort of what it was in line with in version 13 and 14 of SpaceX. And you also have Bob's Mods compatibility. So if you really, really are a glutton for punishment and you really, really enjoy your Bob's Mods, you can always turn on Bob's Mods, or it automatically comes with Bob's Mods compatibility, but you can always turn it off should you want to have that little bit more vanilla experience for your SpaceX. Anyway, that's SpaceX mod covered in full. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. Thoughts, comments, and all that sort of stuff down in the description below. Hopefully Lord Couture actually popped by and checked the comments out himself. I know he watches some of my videos, if not all of them. I hope he watches all of them, but I know he watches some of them at least. Finally, the link to the actual mod will be down in the description as always. As I said, I highly recommend it, and I really think it's worth checking out. And that's about it. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.